All right, friends. So you know how camp's been going at that safety spot for the Steelers? Guys rotating through, competition looking pretty normal through the first couple days. But then one of the guys I expected to see out there just stopped showing up to practice. Not for 1 day, guys, for 2 days straight now. And that's when it starts messing with my head a little. Like, is this an injury? Is this something they're just not talking about yet? And right around that same window, Pittsburgh goes out and adds a name at that exact position, then brings in another one for a visit on top of it. So now I'm connecting these dots, and I don't think that timing is an accident. I'm going to break down exactly who's missing, but stick with me because I've also got the full Week 1 training camp winners and losers breakdown for you guys in this video as well. Hello, Steelers fans. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, so let's get into it because this is the part that's actually been sitting with me. Robert Spears-Jennings has basically been out there for the entire day working with the ones. And I gotta say, it didn't look great from him, but hey, at least he's out there getting the reps, and that matters this time of year. Jack Henderson, on the other hand, he's been stuck on the sideline. And look, I'm not gonna pretend I know exactly why yet, but when you combine that with everything else going on at that position, it just adds another layer to this whole thing. And that brings me to the real story here, guys, because Darnell Savage has now missed back-to-back days of practice, and I keep going back and forth on what that actually means. Like, is this just a veteran being handled the smart way, load management, nothing to see here? Or is this something that's actually bothering him physically and they just haven't put a name on it yet? Honestly, I don't know for sure, and anybody telling you they know for certain right now is probably guessing just as much as I am. But here's what I do know. Missing 1 day, fine, that happens all the time in camp. Missing 2 days in a row, that starts to say something. That's not just a coincidence anymore in my eyes. And then you layer in the roster moves, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Right around this exact stretch, the Steelers go out and sign Rayshawn Jenkins. Now think about that timing for a second. You don't usually just randomly add a safety in the middle of camp for no reason, right? Teams do that when they feel like they need a little extra depth insurance at a spot that's suddenly looking thin. And it's not just that move either, because on top of signing Rayshawn Jenkins, they also brought in Jordan Whitehead for a visit on top of it. So now you've got a guy missing practice, a new signing at that same position, and another veteran safety walking through the building for a look. I mean, come on, guys, that's not 3 separate, unrelated things happening at once. That's a pattern. Now look, that's the injury angle, and I wanted to lay that out for you first because I think it's the most important storyline out of everything I saw this week. But I also told you at the top I had a full breakdown of winners and losers from Week 1. And honestly, there's a lot to like here too, so let's shift into that because I think it kind of balances out the mood a little bit after that safety situation. Starting at quarterback, because I think this is honestly the most important development of the entire week outside of that safety stuff. Will Howard looked like a legit backup quarterback out there. I'm talking clean footwork, good decision-making, getting the ball out on time, throwing with real accuracy even into tighter windows down the field. Now, yeah, he was going against backup-level competition for the most part, I get that, but when I watch process over results, what I saw from him was encouraging, and if I'm being honest with you, if I had to pick right now between Mason Rudolph and Will Howard for that QB2 job, I'd lean Will Howard. That doesn't mean Mason Rudolph played poorly, he didn't. He's just kind of been who he's always been. Steady, a little bit of a longer release, some underneath stuff, nothing that jumps off the page. So that quiet week from him, combined with how sharp Will Howard looked, that puts Mason Rudolph in a spot where he's got to answer back once the pads go on.
And speaking of quarterbacks, Drew Aller also stood out to me this week, and honestly, maybe even more than I expected walking in. The arm talent is obvious. You can see the power on his intermediate throws. The touch he can put on a deep ball is honestly a little ridiculous for where he's at in his development. But what really got my attention was the mental side, getting rid of the ball with anticipation, making checks, playing within structure. There were some inaccurate reps mixed in, sure, that's part of the process, but the flashes were legitimately high level. Now, on the receiver side, I gotta bring up DK Metcalf because his chemistry with Aaron Rodgers was obvious from day one. You could tell these two already have that built-in rapport from last season, and that's the kind of stuff that shows up on Sundays. If you're building a fantasy roster and you haven't locked him in yet, I mean, what are you doing? Because he's about to be the focal point of that passing game all year. Right alongside him, Roman Wilson really took a step forward this week too. After a rookie year that basically didn't happen because of injuries, he came into camp and settled into that slot role, catching everything thrown his way, building trust early in the progression with Aaron Rodgers. And with all the buzz around Germie Bernard possibly taking that wide receiver 3 job, Roman Wilson kind of answered that question himself by just going out and producing. And I gotta mention a couple other guys in that receiver room too, because they're quietly putting together decent weeks of their own. Caden Wetchen has had a handful of nice downfield catches, mostly working with the third team stuff, connecting with both Drew Aller and Will Howard on some scramble drill plays down the field. He's already shown you what he can do as a returner, but I think he's got a little more to him as a pure receiver than people are giving him credit for. And then you've got Brandon Smith, who's been bouncing between that first and second team offense, made a nice back shoulder catch, made a nice dig route catch too. He's got some size to him, a little bit of twitch, and he's got some familiarity with this staff already. I don't think he ends up making the 53-man roster if I'm being honest, but I'd be shocked if he's not stashed somewhere on that practice squad by the time final cuts roll around. At tight end, Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington both had strong showings too. Freiermuth especially, that connection with Aaron Rodgers was on display multiple times, including a touchdown in the 2-minute drill. And Darnell Washington, when you get him in open space, good luck bringing that guy down. He's a mismatch problem in the red zone, and this offense clearly knows how to use him. And while we're on that third string group, Robert Tonyan deserves a mention too, because he's been making catches basically every single day out there working with those young quarterbacks. He's finding the soft spots in zone, he's been reliable, and honestly, it would be pretty surprising at this point if he doesn't at least end up on the practice squad once the roster gets finalized. On defense, Asante Samuel Jr. might be the single biggest standout of the entire week if you ask me. Coming back from that spinal surgery, he looked like the best version of himself, making plays on the ball nearly every single day, sticking with receivers no matter who he was lined up against. And honestly, with everything going on with Joey Porter Jr. right now, having a corner playing at that level gives the front office a little more leverage in those contract conversations, whether they want to use it or not. And look, I think everybody knows where this is probably headed, some kind of new deal for Joey Porter Jr. It's really just a matter of the number at this point. With Denzel Ward just resetting the market at corner this offseason, I've got a feeling Joey Porter Jr. is going to want to land somewhere close to that number, or even above it. And if I'm Pittsburgh, having Asante Samuel Jr. playing the way he's playing gives you a little bit of leverage to not just hand over whatever figure gets asked for. And I can't skip over Dalen Everett either, because as a rookie, he's been really impressive through this first week. Yeah, he got beat on that DK Metcalf play early in the 2-minute drill, but outside of that, he's been sticky in coverage. And from what I saw, he does not look like a rookie out there. So when you stack him behind Asante Samuel Jr., you're looking at some legitimately deep depth at that corner spot. Then you've got your role players stepping up too, guys like Spencer Anderson, who's basically locked down that starting right guard job through the first week, Cole Holcomb looking sharp in coverage when he rotates in at linebacker, and Cameron Johnston answering a lot of questions about his leg after getting cut by a few teams last year. He came out and boomed the ball like an NFL punter should. Now, on the flip side, injuries hurt a few guys who just couldn't show anything this week. Jalen Ramsey, Dante Kent, and of course, Joey Porter Jr., all sidelined, all unable to make a case for themselves while other guys were out there building trust. And then you had some quieter starts too. Michael Pittman Jr. didn't create much separation. Germie Bernard looked like he's still adjusting to how demanding this system is. Eli Heidenreich didn't show much as a receiving threat, which was honestly the exact skill set I was hoping to see from him. And Jaheim Bell had a handful of drops that stuck out. That's everything I got for you guys on week 1, but keep an eye on that safety situation because I don't think we've heard the last of it. I'll be back with more updates as soon as the pads come on and things start getting a lot more physical out there. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Here we go, Steelers!